Ubisoft is eliminating hundreds of jobs as the struggling company is undergoing a cost-saving and reorganization plan. Welcome to Inside Games Daily, the only gaming news show brave enough to just keep reporting the same story from Ubisoft.
Yeah, we'd like some variety here, but it's just bad and getting worse for poor Ubisoft. And this is pretty brutal, more brutal than it has been in the past. The Assassin's Creed publisher is closing 2 whole studios and cutting up to 380 jobs as a part of this reorganization plan. And this is, gosh, what, the third, fourth reorg they've had in the last few years? Bad times.
Yeah, it's been brutal, and we'll get into the exact numbers a little bit later, but for right now, according to VGC and Kotaku, Ubisoft is shutting down its Winnipeg and Belgrade studios, while also restructuring its office in Barcelona. The Barcelona team is now just going to be focusing on Rainbow Six projects, Ubisoft also making additional cuts across its global publishing division.
So Winnipeg, founded in 2018, grew to around 100 employees and worked on supporting Ubisoft's game engines, including Anvil and Snowdrop. Most recently contributed to Rainbow Six Mobile. Belgrade, founded in 2016, supported multiple Ubisoft titles, including Steep, The Crew 2, Riders Republic, Rainbow Six, and Skull and Bones.
And like we said, this is part of a broader restructuring effort that could affect up to 380 employees across a global workforce of more than 15,000. So Ubisoft has a lot of burn rate in the payroll. This is not the first restructuring, though. Like we said, Ubisoft has downsized significantly multiple times in recent years.
Yeah, I found a stat from IGN. They said it's pretty jaw-dropping. Back in 2023, not that long ago, Ubisoft had more than 20,000 staffers. As of this year and before these latest layoffs, that had already fallen to 16,590. So they have been cutting with an axe.
Yeah, they really have. There's a reason. Just a few weeks ago, they reported an annual loss of $1.7 billion. Annual loss in a year for its 2025-26 financial year. CEO Yves Guillemot said that Ubisoft's upcoming 2026 and 2027 financial year would likely be a low point in financial performance, given a softer release slate and restructuring costs.
Yeah, that's really bad. We were kind of discussing this before, and it turns out that Ubisoft launched very few games. They're just in a weird desert right now, which is very bad for companies that rely on product releases. This is why everybody wants games as service. You get that monthly revenue as opposed to waiting 5 years to get one giant injection of money. So yeah, they kind of hedged it so that Assassin's Creed Shadows was in their last fiscal. And in their last fiscal year, I think they only launched 2 games that I could find, Just Dance and Anno, which Just Dance used to be a powerhouse. But yeah, clearly with those 2 titles, that's not enough to buoy up their tens of thousands of employees.
Yeah, and they have been laying off over the last few years hundreds of staff, closing studios, as well as, the broader restructuring plan, which was backed in part by a $1 billion investment from the Chinese conglomerate Tencent. And when they get involved,
Yeah, that's never good, I don't think. In March, Ubisoft confirmed that 105 employees were set to leave Red Storm Entertainment, the veteran Tom Clancy studio, as part of a downsizing after multiple previous rounds of layoffs since 2022.
And earlier this year, the company canceled at least 6 games, including its Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake, and shut down Ubisoft Stockholm and Ubisoft Halifax. It also carried out layoffs across Ubisoft Abu Dhabi, Red Lynx, and Massive Entertainment.
And just a week after that, they announced plans to eliminate around 200 jobs at its Paris headquarters, which prompted big-time internal protests. So it's been wild over there for a long time now.
Yeah, geez. In February, the company also cut around 40 roles at Ubisoft Toronto, while reassuring fans that its Splinter Cell remake remained in development. I guess we're still getting that.
Oh, just like we got the Sands of Time remake, huh? When a studio can't ship a remake of its own game, something's really, really bad, yeah. The company's restructuring has also included multiple delays across major franchises, with projects like upcoming Far Cry and Ghost Recon titles reportedly pushed to 2027 and beyond, as Ubisoft attempts to improve quality and manage rising production costs in an increasingly competitive AAA market.
Ubisoft says it's aiming to reduce costs by hundreds of millions of euros as part of, again, that major reset, as they called it, reorganizing its development teams into more autonomous creative houses. though the ongoing changes continue to reshape the company's global footprint. So yeah, they're struggling for air at this point.
This is a weird catch-22 for them. I'm sure they already know this, obviously, because they've been doing it for years. But they're laying people off, which then delays titles, which then means they don't get any money. So then they have to lay people off. Like, it's like this weird, terrible cycle they're stuck in. And I know literally everybody in the comments is going to be so excited that Ubisoft is laying off so many people and that they're dying. I'm not. I don't want to see anybody lose their jobs. I don't want to see Ubisoft go under. I've really enjoyed a couple of their more recent games like Avatar and Star Wars Outlaws coming from Massive. So, I mean, if the company shuts down, I really do hope that those developers find great jobs, because the developers at Ubisoft, I think, are making good stuff. I really do. The executives are just fucking it up.
Yeah, you described a death spiral pretty perfectly. This concept of trying to spin off these independent dev houses that will just quietly make product, to me, that seems like a very intentional counter to a company that became way too middle management heavy, way too upper management heavy. Far too many roles that aren't involved with the actual production and shipping of video games. People that insert themselves into email conversations, drag things out, delay things because shipping things means your project's done. I understand their idea. If we can just get groups of people to get away from this corporate haze so they can just work uninhibited, then maybe we'll actually have products to sell. And boy, do I hope that's the case. But yeah, to what Bruce was saying, if you're a consumer and you're unhappy with a company's products, it's pretty understandable that you want some kind of financial justice. You want them to suffer for their lack of good production. But it's never the people that deserve to suffer that do actually suffer. That's the problem. In situations like this, I think you get into these situations because anytime there's financial instability, it's the middle managers and upper executives that always protect their roles, which is how you get to this top-heavy, lopsided, too many cooks in the kitchen sort of situation. You have rounds of layoffs, everybody protects themselves because that's what they're good at, and then the people who actually produce the damn games get tossed out onto the street. And then you just have like a company that's 80% middle management and nobody actually makes anything. Everybody just schedules email meetings all day. So I'd never worked at Ubisoft. I don't know that that's the case, but I've been at companies that have this sort of like executive death spiral where they just lose complete focus of the reason that their company operates in the first place. And it seems like that's where Ubisoft has been for a while.
That's a pet peeve of mine too. Like, if your job is mostly going to meetings, you don't have a real job. It's the people below you. But yeah, it just feels like, I came out of the newspaper industry. Ubisoft feels like the newspaper industry at this point. Like, they're cutting their own product. Like, I knew when we started laying off reporters that we were dead because you're cutting the main product, so you're not offering as much as you used to. And yeah, to y'all's point, they have been making good games. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown was a great Metroidvania. It came out 2 years ago. Like, they still have a lot of talent. The people actually in the trenches making the game are great, but it does feel, I hate to say it, a death spiral. I hope they hang on, but it just feels like we're not cutting fat. We're cutting bone. We're cutting limbs. We're cutting everything at this point. Also,
I would be remiss for the comments to not acknowledge that Ubisoft's PR has been ruining this company. The quadruple A comments from Eve GMO about Skull and Bones, people just mocked mercilessly. They're going to, in the comments in this episode, they're going to talk about quadruple A for sure. That recently there was another executive we reported on that was like, gamers have to get used to not owning their games. Like, that kind of stuff. And they've been doing it for years. Just shut the fuck up. Like, seriously, the executives, please stop talking. Just let them make video games and stop talking about the business of games. Oh my gosh.
I want to look up that dude's LinkedIn profile. Think he's still employed at Ubisoft?
Oh, the guy that said, get used to not owning their games?
That guy. The thing is, like, I don't know, not to make excuses for him. In context, I kind of get, Philippe Tremblay. Let's see here. LinkedIn. Click. Oh, there's a lot of Philippe Tremblays. Wow, what a title. Growth, P&L and transformation leader. Subscription, digital commerce, and GTM strategy. Scaling consumer and DTC businesses. Ubisoft Plus. All right. So Philippe Tremblay, still at Ubisoft. 380 devs on the chopping block. that's fun. We'll see how that plays out. Hopefully Philippe has been growing Ubisoft Plus into a market leader. Maybe if Philippe had done a better job, they wouldn't have to lay as many people off right now.
It also feels like they're kind of suffering from the curse of that medium-sized developer like Origin back in the day, where it's like they have some big name franchises, but they're not 2K, they're not Rockstar, they're not sort of these big. It just feels like we're just consolidating into a few behemoths. And then, not saying Ubisoft they have done a lot wrong, but they're of that size where they just seem ripe for an acquisition. And I feel like that could definitely be what's in the future for them.
Oh yeah, they've had to fend off some, they've had to do some specific accounting to make sure that they are not vulnerable to a hostile takeover, because that was a concern at a few points. And yeah, Brian, to your point, I think spinning off into this side business that has all their big brands on it, they can pull in investing to that because this is a new start with all these proven brands that earn money. And then suddenly that new entity is not vulnerable to a takeover anymore. So, and also Guillemot can move his entire family over to this life raft and keep them drawing checks off the corporate till. So that's fun.
Thank you very much for watching Inside Games Daily, where we yet again rail against the executives of some company that's failing. That's the world we live in currently. So thank you for being the best gamer ever by watching this video. And maybe even a better gamer than the best gamer ever by supporting our Patreon. Possibly. I don't know if you want to do that. That's the top tier of game. That's the Ubisoft plus quadruple A tier of our Patreon. Jared Watkins, Buck, and Cesar Mendez do that. And I consider them quadruple A.
Oh, we got to add a quadruple A tier. Except you don't get anything. We just send you a toy boat. That's it.